So today's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video.
Nigga, pay attention.
Hey, so we are back with another video. So before we get started, I wanted to do another quick little shout out. So today I'm going to be shouting out myself, and I have an up and coming African fashion brand. So it may look like I'm not wearing a shirt, but I am wearing this kente print little tube top thing here that I made myself, handmade. I made a whole bunch of other kente print things. They're on Instagram, which is Shop Motherland Materials. It does not take but a little bit to follow and support an up and coming black business. So if you guys could do me a favor, quickly pause, head over to Instagram and just hit the follow button. That is support. That is something that we love. My sister and I, we are loving the fact that we're doing this brand, and I really want you guys to like it, appreciate it, and see some of the items that we're going to be coming out with, especially if you're African. If you're not African, join the wave because we are popping, okay? All right. So today's video has a very serious subject matter. It is about the When They See Us docu-series on Netflix. I really thought that this was going to be so much different than what it ended up being. And after watching it, I legitimately went through a very large, very severe array of emotions, because for me, I am not one to be a crier. I'm not really an emotional person. So for something to do something like that to me and move me in that way, it's very serious. And so I just want to give props where it's due. And I wanted to give my own review and my own opinions about the piece of work, because it was a very good piece of work. I must say this was the deepest, most thought-provoking, most passionate, most emotional thing I have ever watched in my entire 21 years of life. And I am so blown away by Ava DuVernay's work. Things happen within the black community or the black race here in America through bad and very, I guess you could say racist and very bad judicial systems, and it needs to be brought to light, because as someone who is of this generation, who was born in 97, you know, this is something I would have never heard about until this documentary came out. So a little bit of a background on the entire case. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have watched it, let alone heard about it. In 1989 in New York, there were 5 young boys who were wrongfully accused of a rape and a whole bunch of other very crazy charges. 4 of those boys were 15 years old and 1 boy was 16 years old. So he was tried as an adult, and they were all found guilty of the rape, in which they were all sentenced to jail time, and they served upwards to 13 years in prison. I believe in 2001 they were all exonerated of the crime, and they were found innocent and they were found not guilty, and they were able to redeem themselves into society. There's so many things I want to talk about and get into, but I want to give a brief background on every character in my opinions. So Antron McCray, he was one of the young men, and he was the one who they showcased, like him and his dad and their dynamic, and it was just very interesting to see how his dad played a lot of this entire thing. You know, how the police were able to get into his head, which then got into Antron's head, and Antron and him were not on the same page. And even after everything, when they were all exonerated, you know, Antron and his father never rekindled or never made peace. And you know, it's kind of sad how his dad was supposed to be giving him advice on how to make sure that he can stay home, stay out of any legal issues, and come back home without any issue, you know, safe and sound. And it's kind of like his dad was a part of what led to the demise of this situation. So it was really sad to see that in the end they never made peace, as well as when his dad took the stand to testify at the court hearing, you know, it kind of worked not in his favor because of how the defense team and how the judicial system was able to coerce and basically just pin this heinous crime on these young men. It's like his father's words further incriminated him, and it was so sad, because as soon as the lady was like, "So we can trust your son's word," I knew exactly where it was going, because they were going to bring up those tapes as to him admitting to what he did not do, basically. Raymond Santana, he was the young Latino guy. His story to me was very interesting, because I love how they were like, "Oh, you speak Spanish, right?" And he really didn't speak Spanish. And I found that very interesting, because in a lot of Spanish households, everybody speaks Spanish. So I felt like they were able to also manipulate him by that, because they knew that his guardian, which was his grandma, I mean, he also had his dad, you know, only spoke Spanish, and so put him into a situation where there was no barrier of language. And I found that very interesting. It was very moving moving to me. I loved his character as well. The aftermath of him getting out of jail and trying to do the right thing and falling back into crime is a very big issue within the American system, because you put these people in prison, they serve their time, they admit their guilt or whatever, whether they're guilty or not, and then they come out and they can't even operate as actual citizens. It's like, what do you expect them to do? Of course they're going to go back to illegal ways of making money because they have to try and survive. And it's funny because when a lot of people go to jail and come out, many of them are changed people, do not want to go back to prison, because who really wants to go back to prison? But then it's like there's so many steps that they have to go through in order for them to operate as a citizen of the United States. It's very disheartening that you can go to jail for a small mistake, and when you come out you can never live the same again for a mistake, you know? It's really disheartening. Kevin Richardson, he was the youngest out of everybody. He was 14. I think his character is so cute. I thought he was young. His character is actually like 18, I think. The person who played him, I thought he was so cute, so adorable. Very good actor, the person who played him. And I feel like his case was really bad, like when he got hit in the head, when he got hit in the face by the helmet of the police. Like, it just was really disheartening to see that that type of violence occurred then and still occurs now, and it seems like it's never changing. And so the way how they manipulated him to lie and say that the cut or the injury that he had was not from the police but from, you know, him and his part, which he obviously didn't do, and the whole rape thing, you know, it was just crazy how they were able to use that injury that was inflicted by the police as part of his testimony to make him guilty. I mean, it was just really, really, really sad. Yusuf Salam, loved his character, intelligent, Muslim, spoke well, very poised. I love the way how they casted him. I feel like Yusuf was the character to make me realize that none of these guys even knew each other, because I thought off of initial stance that that's what the case was. So when he was like, who's Raymond? It was just like, oh, okay, now I get what they're about to do. Of course, they're about to make this a whole different thing. And I thought Yusuf's character was really important because this is a guy who was on the right path. I'm not saying that the other gentlemen were not, but like, he was the one who was really stand up. No, he skipped the cut of grades. He was very intelligent, no, dressed nicely, was going to a different school, really was doing the right thing, doing what they want us to do, correct? And they still were able to pull him and vacuum him into this nonsense. And I just feel like that's so crazy that someone who is on the right track and doing the right things, never been in trouble, goes to school, doesn't miss school, very intelligent, and is even skipping grades and doing better than his white counterparts per se, can even still be racially profiled into a situation that he had no business in and no business even being convicted of. Now, Korey wise, this was the character that moved everybody. I had to just like woosah as I watched everything that he went through. I feel like even in the post interviews that I've watched now with Korey Rise, they say, okay, he's still stuck in a 16-year-old mindset, like he still wants to be a teenager, he still wants to be a kid because his youth was stripped from him. And you can tell just from the way that he dresses, like when you see interviews of all 5 of them, everyone's kind of dressed up or kind of looks like an older guy, but Korey's just sitting there chilling, looking like that old cool uncle. I just cannot believe that somebody is 16, so he goes to the adult prison in Rikers Island, and he's just belittled, you know, victimized, he's shamed, he's beaten, he's abused and everything. And like, I literally was shook. First of all, shout out to my man, Jerome. Hit your girl up because you cute. So I'm playing. He was phenomenal. I mean, at first when I saw the adult version, I legitimately was like, hold on, did they just find somebody that looks just like him? Or is this the same guy? And then I realized, okay, it's the same actor. They just changed him up. And I was like, phenomenal job. Okay, round of applause, stand up ovation. He deserves an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, you name it. Every award for best actor, if I could vote, I'm voting him, because that was so phenomenal. From the prison scenes to the solidarity scenes, the youthful scenes, the love scenes, every scene that he did, interacting with police, interacting with the guards, interacting with other inmates, just the way how he was able to do that. He has so much range. That actor, well done, okay? But as for Korey Wise, in actuality, I mean, how can somebody go through something like that and still be alive today, to just be walking, not necessarily saying as if it doesn't happen, but just to be mentally okay, or at least being able to function and still do good and still have a positive outlook on life? I mean, I think I would have been broken, like, and they broke him. But for him to come out at the end of it and be okay, it's like, I cannot believe, even when he went up for parole and he was like, tell him I'm good, I'm not admitting to something I didn't do, I feel like I probably would have admitted and just said I'm guilty just to get out of there. And the fact that he was so resilient and wanted to say, you know what, I'm not admitting to guilt, is like just beyond me. Like, I cannot even believe that someone could even just, I don't know, like, that is so crazy to me. So I've broken this video down into a couple talking points, so I'm just gonna get right into those. Number one is, I did not realize that none of these people knew each other. From hearing it on Twitter, I literally thought they were all friends, you know, walking through the park, and then they all got caught. I did not know that none of these people knew each other except for 2, which was Yusuf and Korey, who were friends. And I found their friendship dynamic very, you know, interesting because it was kind of like yin and yang. You know, Korey didn't really go to school, skipped school, had a very like tumultuous home life. Things were not so good at home, especially with his upbringing. And you could tell that he was a little bit like delayed in his like development mentally and verbally and all of those types of things. Whereas Yusuf, you know, stand up, intelligent, goes to school, decent home structure with his mom being very involved. You know, it was such a contrast, but I love how at the end of the day they were still friends. But I did not know that none of these gentlemen did not know each other. Okay, all this time I thought they all knew each other until they actually started the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, wait. That's how they were able to pin it on everybody, and everybody was able to lie and say whatever they need to say. And I feel like during the case, that should have been stated. Like, they should have asked them, hey, how do you guys even know each other? Like, what are the odds that 5 random strangers would be walking through a park and say, hey, y'all trying to rape this girl? Like, nobody's gonna do that. Most times when a rape happens, and let's say it's a double rape, the people who are the perpetrators are gonna be people who know each other, planned it, want to do it, are co-suspects in going through the whole entire thing. It doesn't make any sense. You know, I know obviously they didn't do it, but it doesn't even make any sense that 5 random miscellaneous people who don't know each other would all commit a crime at the same time to the same person, same day. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any, that to me would have been red flag number 1, that how could 5 random people who don't even know each other commit a crime on the same person, same day, same time? People who don't even know each other. Like, that's not even sexually safe. It's not safe, period. But like, it was just so bizarre to me because I didn't realize that, and that's very sickening that they were able to pin them all against each other. Because if they tell me, hey, Chioma, just say that this person is so you could go home, me being young, 14, 15, 16, I probably would have done the same thing. Point number 2 is that they were so young. I just can't believe that in this country, someone who was as young as 16, and let's be real, at 16, you're not grown, you're not developed in any way financially, mentally, body-wise. There's so many things. At me as 21, I'm still young, but at 16 is night and day, okay? The 16-year-old Chioma is different than who I am now. How can a 16-year-old be tried as an adult and sent to Rikers Island, but they can't even go fight for this country? They can't even drink. They can't buy tobacco products, but you could throw them in a jail with adults. It's crazy, and I feel like this is why I do what I do, okay? This is why I speak on what I speak on, because of so many issues within the Black community that really at the end of the day are so petty, like colorism and things like that. But we have real issues, and it's like things like this is really what needs to be promoted and talked about. And I was so blown away that at 16 that you could be in an adult prison. Like, that's just crazy to me. Like, it's absurd because you're not an adult, period. Point number 3 is that I did want to point out, like I said earlier, that Korey Wise did have some, you know, developmental delays and stuff. And I think that it was so manipulative the way how they were able to play him into admitting that he did something he didn't do, because they looked at the paper and say, you know, you signed it, what does it say? He's like, I don't know, I can't read well. And it's just like, damn, like, he really does not read well. As a 16-year-old, he probably was reading on an elementary school level. He doesn't go to school. And it's like, the one thing I took away from this entire movie is I kept asking myself, how? How can they do that? How can this happen? How? Why? How? I kept asking myself, how can they even sit up here and really put these boys in prison for something that doesn't even make any sense? Like, I just kept asking myself how. It didn't make any sense to me. Point number 4, and I really try not to cuss on this channel. I really try to keep it PG-13. So if, you know, cover your ears real quick. But I just want to say, fuck the American justice system. Ain't no damn justice, okay? Fuck all of that. Because what I don't understand, again, a 16-year-old could be tried as an adult. You're using all these taxpayer dollar resources to do these, you know, investigations and whatnot, and you still got it wrong. And you get it wrong again and again and again. These people are being paid, you know, prosecutors, judges, defense team, investigators, all these people are being paid, police officers, to get it wrong. How do you get it wrong? How are you a trained individual within this system, within the judicial branch, and you still getting things like this completely wrong? And y'all all knew it was wrong, you still went along with it. There are some very, very, very evil people in this world. And I don't know if this is something that other countries deal with, but here in America, we have a race issue. It's not something where you're gonna get up and walk down the street and just be racially profiled like it was 50 years ago. But there is a race issue. When I see a white person or a white person sees me, I know they don't just see me as another counterpart. They see me as a Black woman. There's a difference. You know, there really is a race issue, and it definitely spills into our American judicial system. I feel like the prosecutors, the judge, police officers, guard, defense team, everybody, all of those people need to be jailed. If we could pull them up and jail them and strip them of all their titles, take away all their degrees, they don't deserve any of the things that they have achieved due to the fact that they did something this heinous. And if they don't get it here on earth, I swear to you, they will get it in the afterlife. I promise you. Point number 5, I wanted to touch on Linda Fairstein because she is just a terrible lady. She was the lead detective in all of this, and again, sorry for the language, but fuck her, okay? Oh my gosh, like, When I think of racist, everything that her character portrayed is what I think of when I think of racist white people. She didn't make me hate white people, but she made me hate racism even more than I already do. And people don't understand, you cannot just change the color of your skin. You don't, as a baby, you're in your mother's womb and you hearing voices, or you're just touching around on the genes and say, you know what, I'm gonna pick white, light, whatever it may be. You have no choice what color you come out. For you to feel like you are superior because you have lighter skin or you have white skin is just so baffling to me, because it played a big role. And one thing I really did not like that she said every black boy that was in that park is a suspect. And I sat there and I said, don't you mean person of interest? Because obviously somebody did it. So anybody, black, white, male, female, I don't care, young, old, was a person of interest. That is how you should have stated it. Not every black boy, every young black man is a suspect. You're not a suspect. You're a person of interest until you can prove that they are a suspect. She really does need to be in jail because she had absolutely no case whatsoever. But she tried with every instance in her body to put these boys in prison and succeeded, and is still being able to walk freely in this country right now. I am very disgusted, and it's just nasty to me that some people could even be this racist and this heinous, and it's supposed to be somebody that we hold to a level of prestige. You know, a defense attorney, detective, the judicial system. Like, we're supposed to sit here and trust them. We're supposed to sit here and put our trust and our safety into these people who are higher up, and they can't even get it right. You can't get it right. She kept referencing the young black men as animals. Like, she kept using that word animals. It's like, you're an animal. You're batshit crazy for what you did. You're the animal here. Every negative thing that you perpetuated, whether it was verbally, physically, or through your career during that entire period, is everything that you are. You took out your inner insecurities and your inner, I guess you could say, malfunction prestige on these young boys because you thought that you were doing a good job and you weren't. Miss. Then she came up with this whole wilding thing. I don't like the way that she was saying it, because obviously you know that wilding is not wilding. Like, obviously it's wilding, but it's like, oh, we was wilding with our friends. Like, we was just playing with our friends. And you made it a big terminology as a part of this crime. Like, when you look at the newspaper articles, like, they keep posting it, wilding, wilding, wilding. And one thing I don't like about white media is how they take certain things or certain phrases, certain parts of the black culture or just urban culture, period, and poster it as if they're cool, but then they're using it to also shame us for using these words that we've created as if we are illiterate, dumb, or we just are really animalistic or really just belligerent people. And that's not the case. In this case, it was young kids who were just playing and having fun with their friends. We was just wilding out in the park, you know, just playing. And you made it so much more harsher of a term than what it was actually meant to mean. I also want to touch on the fact that Donald Trump was very vocal during this whole thing. And I love the fact that they threw that in there, because it was like a reality check for Americans. Like, if you voted for Donald Trump, I really don't know what to tell you. And you may feel like, okay, well, I had to choose the lesser of two evils. But you didn't, okay? We would have been better off with Hillary or the third party people, you know? I love the fact that they threw Donald Trump's part in there, because it goes to show that this is the type of man who is running our country. Someone who paid $80,000 to put an ad to say that these boys deserve the death penalty. Young boys who he wasn't even sure committed the crime or not. But because of racial profiling, because of what you think that you know, because of trying to believe certain things, because of the media or whatever ways that they feel towards black people, young black men at that, you went ahead and put your 2 cents in there, and you sat up there and you said that they deserve the death penalty? Are you crazy? I don't think anybody really deserves to die. There are people that do crazy things and kill people, and I still don't think they deserve to die, because that means end of life. That means no more. That means terminated, finished, executed. I don't even believe in that. And you really sat up there and you proposed that idea and put it as an ad as what? To showboat that you have some form of, I guess you could say, monetary advancement over black people, or that as if you have the power to, I guess, implement certain laws. And now that he's a president, it's kind of scary. Like, if you voted for him, and let's say you as a white person or whomever did something, and he, with that same mindset, implements death penalty wherever, imagine that. This is a man that people voted for as president of the United States. And they thought it was a joke until he actually won. But I love the fact that they inserted that in there, because I feel like it was a really good reality check and the point of where we're at in America, because that is our president. And the fact that he was so vocal about it years ago, I loved it. I loved that insert. Point number 6 is the amount of people that said, oh, I would never admit to anything like that. I would never admit to anything I didn't do. I completely understand looking back now, especially because we're in a different time. You know, we have social media, we have phones, we have surveillance, we have videos. I feel like we're at a day and age that bad things still happen to our race here in America, but also we are a little bit more informed than possibly the people were back at that time, because there was so many things going on and people were so influenced and so scared of law enforcement, whereas now we still do have those reservations towards law enforcement, but we know a little bit more, so we can implement different ways of, you know, just logic. But as a 14-year-old freshman in high school, or even 8th grader, because a lot of you guys were 14 in 8th grade or 14 going into the 9th grade, don't sit up here and tell me that you would have never said anything, because if you're sitting there 18 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours, no food, no drink, no bathroom break, you just want to go home, you will tell them anything to get them off of your case. And as a 14-year-old, I probably would have done the same thing, especially if I didn't have a parent, legal guardian, or attorney with there to tell me not to say anything. I'm glad that this video came out, or this documentary came out, because it also showed us that if we're ever in that position, especially the young people, don't say anything. You don't admit to anything. You get a lawyer, you get a parent, you seek legal advice. There are so many law firms that will at least allow you to seek free legal advice on certain things. You don't say anything. You hold that Miranda right, because that's why it's there. You don't say anything. But the people that were saying, oh, I wouldn't have said anything, I feel like in the circumstance that they were in, any young person in that situation, even older people, would have just started saying whatever because you want to go. It comes a certain point in time where you're just annoyed, you're upset, you want to go, you're fed up, you're tired, you're hungry, you're sleepy, whatever it may be. So let's not act like we would have sat there and just been quiet. Now, in this day and age, you just gonna have to have some restraint if you're ever in this position. You don't say anything. You keep your mouth shut. I've been in a situation, or I've heard about a situation where you've had to go down to the station and they question you, you ask you so many questions, and they're trained. They have a certain way of getting under your skin. And the fact that they were sitting there abusing those kids, hitting them, choking them, slapping them, you know, basically threatening them to say what they needed to say in order for them to be released, is so crazy to me that the coercion was so bad. So bad. And all of those people who are involved, any of those men, any of those guards, police officers, investigative, whomever, if you are still alive, because I assume being that this was about 30 years ago, that you're probably either retired or no longer living, you should feel so ashamed of yourself. You should. Because that's something that you're going to have to go to your grave with. Point number 7 is, thank God that the real perpetrator confessed. Because had he not confessed, chances are Korey Wise would still be sitting in prison to this day. Here we are 30 years later. To this day, he could have possibly been still sitting in prison. Thank God. Okay, so Mateus Reyes is the person who actually committed the crime. And I don't know what happened. Apparently, he just turned over a new leaf, became a lot more godly, found God, realized that he's going to be in prison for a while. He said, I might as well just, you know, tell on myself or tell the truth, get these dudes out. And I found it very interesting that they came across each other in that prison, because Korey kept transferring from prison to prison to prison to prison. I mean, what do you guys think would have happened had he not come forward? Like, that thought just kills me. Like, they could have very much still been, well, Korey Wise could have very much still been sitting in prison to this day, you know, for reasons that are beyond measure so untrue, you know, things that they just never did. Like, and the fact that every part of this case basically said that they did not commit this crime and they were still thrown in jail shows how messed up, how fixed, how inaccurate the judicial system can be, the legal system can be in this country. And it's happened so many times. This is just one case scenario that's been put out to the masses and put in the forefront because of how much publicity the case received. But you would be surprised how many people are sitting in jail right now for crimes that they did not commit, all because of coercing and admitting guilt when you know you're not guilty, and just not knowing your legal and basic rights as a human being, and racism, simple racism. Which brings me to point number 8, is that things like this still happen to this day. Like, people have to realize, yes, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to fix a lot of our judicial systems and, you know, the investigative process and just the overall racial profiling of many young black males and young black people that are not white in this country. I mean, it's sad that a country that considers itself the melting pot, or a very diverse country, or a place that people come to for this pursuit of happiness and freedom, life, all that stuff, liberty, like, that is just not true. Like, you get freedom, pursuit of happiness, liberty, life, you know, all of that if you're white, okay? Especially if you're white and male, your chances of that are very high. But anybody else that falls under that is considered a minority, whether that means you're a white woman or black woman, black man, Asian, Hispanic, whatever it may be, that's not the same case scenario for you. And even if you're born here, it's still the same thing. I have Nigerian immigrant parents. I was born in this country. I was raised in this country. I have American accent. You know what I'm saying? I'm accustomed to an American lifestyle. But growing up, you know, you notice that you're different than other people just because of the color of your skin, your upbringing, your background, and you know that you don't get the same opportunities. I'm pretty sure there are jobs that I didn't get just because of them looking at my name and saying, oh, we can't even pronounce this, so we're not even about to hire her. But they don't realize that not only am I not an immigrant, or I'm not, I guess you could say, this foreign person that they don't want to deal with, but I'm very educated, I'm very smart, I talk well, you know, I'm very hardworking, and that's instilled in me in my culture. character. And to see that things like this, racial profiling and, you know, misjudgment of people's character and pinning different, I guess you could say, crimes on people who didn't even do things just because of their race or speculation or prejudice or stereotypes still happen in this country to this day. It's very sad and disheartening. It's very unfortunate that things like this are going to keep happening. So it's very important that we're also, you know, being informed of our rights and what to do in certain situations. Like I said, do not admit to anything ever, okay? We know this now, but back then that was just not feasible for them to do, especially at a young age, you know? And if you ever feel yourself scared in that position, you know you're under 18, you don't say anything without a parent, legal guardian, lawyer, or somebody that knows what they're talking about, because the police is not your friend. The police is not any minority's friend. There are good cops out there, don't get me wrong, but overall they have a job to do, whether they're nice or not. Point number 9 is that I just wanted to point out some pros and cons that I felt about the film. Pros is that the casting was freaking phenomenal. I feel like everybody that was chosen, when I looked at the people in real life, when I looked at the young pictures of them, the mugshots, the older versions of them, the actual actors, the interviews, things that happened, down to the things that they wore, phenomenal. Everything that had to do with this film was so, oh my goodness, like I couldn't have asked for a better representation of the facts. I mean, it was a good representation of the facts, and I feel like it did justice to clear the reputation of everybody, you know, of everybody's reputation, whether it be the good or the bad. And I feel like it was great. Like everything was so believable. Like I felt like I was in 1989. I thought I was actually living this. Like it kind of made it feel like this was something that was going on currently, recent, like as if I was actually sitting in 1989. I wasn't even born or alive or thought of in 1989. You know, that's how real the film made you feel. Like down to shoes, music. When Raymond got out of jail, he walked by like a little corner store and they had like a Tupac CD out. It was just like crazy. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like so realistic. Like I loved it. Like loved it. The only con and I don't like to point out cons only because I was so blown away. I just wish that they would have had a little bit more timestamps, because sometimes I felt myself kind of lost. Like, okay, what year is this? What year are they getting out? Where are they? You know, there was a few in there, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more, just so that because it was 5 different characters and 5 different stories, I wanted to know what date, what time, where they were, certain stuff. And I really just would have wished just a little bit more timestamps, just a little bit more, just because I got a little bit confused because it was so much content in the movie. Also, man, I don't know. You guys tell me what you think about this. I would have kind of liked to have some real footage in there intertwined, but because it's more of a docu-series and not a documentary, I kind of feel like I understand why they didn't put like real footage in, but maybe there could have been like a part 5, which was just like a recap of everything in the real footage, you know, but that's, I can find that online. But I kind of, me, just for my own nostalgic purposes, I kind of feel like I wanted to see like different inserts of like the real footage, real trial, real interviews, but because it was a docu-series and not a documentary, I can understand why there wasn't. But overall, I don't care. There's no really concerns, no cons, for real, for real. I thought the movie was great. This is the first movie that I can say that I watched and I give it a 10 out of 10, 5 star. You feel me? 100%, everything. There's not one movie that can say did that for me, but this docu-series, 10 out of 10. 10th and final point is that us black people, we really do need to educate ourselves. And we also need to get involved. I am a senior in college. I should have graduated this May. I'm doing another year because I changed my major to communications, all because I wanted it to help me get into law school. I completely changed my career path because of reasons like this. I feel like we need to have a lot more black infiltration in the judicial system, the legal system, and everything that has to do with that, because we need it. Okay, we need people to represent us. We need people to get us out of things. There's no reason that Brock Turner, who was seen raping a woman who got 6 months in prison, and these young men who didn't even do it, who were young, who weren't even adults, got sent to Rikers Island or wherever and have to be labeled as, you know, a rapist for the remainder of their life, because there's some people who still don't believe that they were innocent, which is so crazy. And I look at a lot of us black people, and I don't want to call black people out on their nonsense. I encourage everybody to shoot for what they really want to do. So if you want to rap, be a rapper. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. But for those of you that are unsure, we have a scarcity in the legal system and our representation as black people. We need more black judges, black lawyers, black everything. I don't want to say it like this, but we kind of have to beat white people to their own game. And it's almost like if you can't beat them, join them. We have to join that. That way, not saying like things like this won't necessarily happen, but at least we have some representation in fields when we really need it. There's no way that the white man can sit up here and be the judge of everything that we do legally. I've never walked into a courtroom and was met by a black male judge. Never. And trust me, I done been in some courtrooms, you know, for a bunch of different things, and I've never been in a courtroom where it was a black judge. I just cannot stand to see another Central Park 5, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, whatever it may be. That's why I changed my entire career around, just because of things like this. And it's so passionate to me. Black experience, black culture, African experience, minority, being a woman, being double minority, black and a woman. You know, there's things like that that just, I feel like as black people, we really do need to educate ourselves and just get involved, okay? We need to join and see ourselves in a lot of legal outlets and fields because it's very necessary. It's very necessary. We're at a scarcity, we're at a low, we're at a loss. We need to be in there, okay? I plead with a lot of you guys, especially if you're like in high school and you don't know what to do. Granted, it's not for everybody, but please consider a career in law, please, okay? So you can learn and pass along to our demographic because we really need it. We desperately need it. So overall, I'm finally done. I thought the film was great, very moving, very thought-provoking. I know a lot of people said they had to watch it in breaks. I don't know if I'm crazy or what, but I was able to just sit and watch the entire thing. I sat there and I was sewing and making a wig, and I watched all 4 parts in one sitting. I didn't necessarily cry, but I'm not really a crier, but it definitely made me angry. I'm more of a person that gets a little bit tempered, and I can't believe what I saw. Like, to know that that was just only a portion, because they can't show you things that happen over that long in a 4-hour, but it was about a 4-hour film. There was so much more to it, things that we probably don't know and won't see. It's so crazy to me. Like, it breaks my heart that this can happen to my brother, my cousin, my dad, my uncle, my homeboy, my friend, my boyfriend, husband, you know what I'm saying, my son. You know, this can happen to any black male, wrong place, wrong time. And I want to say kudos to everybody that was involved. I don't want to refer to them as the Central Park 5 because, again, that's the name that the media gave them. I don't know how some of those men are just alive and well today and just still standing solid, because I would have broken, especially Korey Wise. I don't know how he did it. So what were your overall thoughts on this film? Did you watch? Did you enjoy anything that I left out? I tried to cover everything. I know I didn't talk about Patricia Miley victim, but I just feel like I don't know what to say about that, so I don't want to say anything. But what were you guys' thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? How did it make you feel? Let's have a really deep discussion in the comments, because this is such a great film. And if you haven't watched it, please go watch it and get your young teenage sons, cousins, brothers, or whomever to watch it as well, because it's very moving and this is something that we really needed for our community. So thank you, Ava DuVernay. You've done well, okay? You get my stamp of approval. You've done well. So don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.